I might not be like really exciting because I think ultimately excitement runs out. And I think that we need to put in ourselves the core and the principles of what is right and what is wrong. And then if we do that, if we understand the true principles, then that'll motivate us to do what is right more than excitement, more than music, more than anything else, especially as it is confirmed by the Spirit of the Lord. So I look at like what has transpired over the last year, and it's actually almost amazing. In fact, I would bet Judge Manweiler himself a year ago, or maybe a little over a year ago, would say there was no way that we would keep people out of the courtroom. There's no way that we would barricade the doors and guard the entrances with armed guards, not allowing the people to come into their own trial. I don't know him personally. In fact, I've never ever seen him face to face. I've only seen him on a video that was recorded from a hearing. Besides that, I would recognize his voice because I've been on the phone with him, at least in the court, quite a many times. So I don't really know him, but I would have to say that logic would tell me that even he would never have believed that the people would be kept out of their own courthouses. And what does that mean to you and I? Like, why is that so important? What is due process? What is the administration of justice? And why is that important? And I mean, I could go on a full, well, maybe I couldn't pull it off, but I could try to do a full discourse of how important due process is. But ultimately, each one of us, inside of us, as we try to be good people, long for justice. We long for justice. We long to know and to have things made right. And that's ultimately what justice is. Justice is the wrong being made right. And obviously in this life, we don't get all the wrongs that are upon us or around us or in our society. They're never made right completely. But we do believe in a just God, and we believe that all things will be made right in the end. And so we long for that. We long for that. And so we, as 200 and something years ago, we established a system that would try to make things as right as we could, as imperfect beings, as mortal people. We try to create a system where we can determine the right and try to enforce that right the best we can. And we call that due process. We call that the administration of justice. And that's what this building is for. That's why the people of Ada County have put millions and millions of their dollars into this building. And that's why they hire the judges. And that's why they hire the clerks. And that's why they hire all of these personnel to try to administer justice the best that we can. Now, and for the most part, we've actually historically done that fairly well. And what does it do? When justice is administered properly, what does that bring? It suppresses crime, right? Because a criminal is someone who takes life, liberty, and property. It suppresses crime, so a criminal then therefore does not want or is not motivated to go and commit a crime. Why? Because when justice is administered properly and that perpetrator is caught and gone through the process, he is required to restore back to the victim the best he can, the damages that he caused. He's required to restore that back to them. And so in the end, a criminal or the criminals in maybe your society will start to say it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Why? Because the justice system is so good that most likely I'm going to be caught and I'm going to have to give up more than I got from the victim. And so therefore it's not worth it to me. It's better that I just go and work for myself, work on my own, make something of myself, and therefore the things that I have earned. And that, my friends, is why the administration of justice is so important. And if we don't have it, not only do we encourage crime, but we also are left with this longing for justice. Longing for justice. And so all of these buildings, all of these things were designed for that purpose. Now, let's look at 2020, right? Or let's look at the last 12 months. Because we now have a system that is completely different than what it was a year ago. And most people don't understand. We do not have a justice system. We cannot enter the courts. We cannot participate in due process according to what we need to in order to receive justice. And that system is actually being used against us. It's being used against us. The elements, if you will, the pieces, the building blocks of the justice system is now being used against the people. So a year ago, Idaho, well, let's see, no, it wasn't a year ago. So before March, before March 13th, Idaho was what we call in the Constitution, in the amendments, we call it representative government or a Republican form of government. Now, the founders call it Republican form of government. That doesn't mean it's the Republicans' government, okay? Republican form of government is basically representative government, where the people are the sovereign, where they rule themselves, right? And then there's certain public issues and certain things that need to be taken care of, so they elect a representative to go take care of those things for us because we're the sovereign, right? We are the ones who are kings of our own life, kings of our own property. And we get to make the decision of what we're going to be, what we're going to do with our day, what we're going to do with our property, our lives, and our bodies. We are sovereign. That belongs to us. And God, the Creator, gave that to us. That's how we possess it. And there are certain things like this building, like the administration of justice, that we've all together said, hey, look, these things need to be handled collectively. They're better to be handled collectively. So, but it's very minimal. There's very minimal things. So therefore, we decide that we would find representatives and we would have them go do those things that are better that we agreed to do collectively. And they're very minimal and they're very limited. Now, March 13th. Who remembers what happened on March 13th in Idaho? That's right. The governor issued a proclamation, right? He may call it an edict, right? But it was an actual proclamation. And it says, under this Idaho code, I'm putting the state of Idaho in emergency status. And he did that on the very same day as President Trump announced $50 billion would be issued to states that were in a state of emergency. Okay? Anybody want to guess how many COVID cases? Well, COVID cases were in Idaho? One. One confirmed COVID case, whatever that meant back then, whatever it means now, right? One confirmed COVID case. So think about what I'm saying. And many of you know it, so I'm not, but think about this. This governor, I hate to say this governor put the free state of Idaho, the people, not the state. He put the people, you and I, that live here in Idaho, and anybody who comes into the borders, put you under a state of emergency, and he did it for one reason. He did it for federal money, right? And I'm gonna conclude here. Well, I'm not going to conclude, but I'm going to show you some things here. Now, on March 25th, Governor Little did another proclamation. And this time he enacted extreme martial law under 46601 of the Idaho Code. And I want to read a little bit of that to you, but I got to find it here just a sec. Now, when I say he put the state of Idaho, I really mean he put the people of Idaho under this extreme martial law order. Now I'm gonna navigate a little bit here through my phone, so bear with me. Okay, I'm going to list this. So this order was titled the Order to Self-Isolate or Self-Isolation. Okay? Now who is he saying to self-isolate? You, all of you, right? So he is ordering the people of Idaho, saying they have to stay inside their residence. I thought we were the sovereign. When did we ever give the governor that power? I thought we were the ones in charge. I thought we just elected them to represent some of the social needs that the people need. When did he now get a power to force us into self-isolation in their own homes, right? But that's not all he did. So let me just read through this. So Governor Little ordered the people living in the state of Idaho, and these are quotes, to self-isolate at their place of residence, authorizing the people to leave residence only to perform government-approved essential activities, directing all business owners to cease non-essential operations. I thought we are the ones that owned our business. I didn't know that the governor owned our businesses. I didn't know that he could say what we could and could not do in our businesses, whether we could be open or closed, or whether we can trade with each other. I thought that was ours. I thought that was our right. Let's keep going on. So business non-essential operations defined. So these non-essential operations were defined by this order, prohibiting individuals from, and also the order prohibited individuals from gathering in numbers, including religious services, peaceful assembly, and family gatherings. Imagine that. He really believes, Governor Little believes, that he could tell us not to go to church, that he could tell us that we can't peacefully assemble. He believes, and all his staff and the judge of this place and all these things that have been going on, they truly believe that they have the right to tell sovereign people that they can't go to church, that they can't go and meet with their families, be together with their families, and that they can't peacefully assemble. But that's not it. That's not all. Also ordering the cessation of all non-approved travel. I'm reading this directly from the order. All non-approved travel. And that essential workers have to carry essential critical identification when leaving their residence, and then also mandating social distance requirements. This was the order that they put into place on March 25th. Now I want to read something really quick here. And again, bear with me while I get through this, because I want to show you the law, the Idaho law that he enacted, and it's never been enacted before in Idaho. So I just got to get to it. I apologize. I thought I had it here. Okay. I'm close. Okay. So martial law, and I'm going to read this. It's Title 46, Chapter 6. And it's Martial Law and Active Duty. And if you go to any one of the governor's proclamations, he references this code and says, by authority of this code, this is why I can lock you down and do all these other things. And I'll mention again, never before has in Idaho has this ever been enacted, this law. Okay? 46-601, it says, authority of the governor. And then it says, during a period of state of extreme emergency, the governor shall have complete authority over all agencies of the state government. Do you understand what that is? That's a dictatorship, where the governor has control. Let me read it exactly so it's not my words. Under this extreme emergency, the governor shall have complete authority over all agencies of state government. Okay? Now, has the governor relinquished? Has he dissolved his order? Are we still under it? So, does that mean we're under a Republican form of government? No, we are not. We are absolutely not under a Republican form of government. And in fact, Article 4.4 of the Constitution, let me get it here, it says, the United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a Republican form of government. So it's actually, according to the system in which we set up, when a governor enacts a law or puts the state in a dictatorship, which is what he did, then it would be the United States government that's supposed to come in and say, Governor, you are not to do this. You are not to put the people, the free people of Idaho, in a dictatorship. And then, what has the governor said? We've been going on now for a year. What has the governor said? He says, it's a rolling order. It's a rolling order, which means he's going to hold us in this indefinitely. He's going to keep us in this order indefinitely. And remember why he put us there. So on March 25th, that's when he put us in extreme state of emergency and enacted 46-601. On March 25th was also the very same day that President Trump and the Senate and Nancy Pelosi agreed upon a $2 trillion relief package plan for the states that are in extreme state of emergency. Now, Governor Little very clearly, and remember we had 136 cases, whatever that means, he didn't do it for COVID. He did it for two reasons: to put himself as a dictator and so that he can receive all those federal money, and as the order says, all the government is under his order, so he can decide, him and his staff can decide what to do with billions and billions of dollars without any legislative oversight whatsoever at all. Now, if you think maybe I'm not telling the truth, I want to read something else to you. This is another order from the governor. But again, you got to bear with me because I'm going through this little phone here, which is pretty amazing actually, that this information is here. Okay, so I'm going to read you a proclamation from the governor of Idaho, Governor Little. And you tell me if what I'm saying is not correct or not, or correct or not. This is Executive Order number 2020-07. Whereas I issued a proclamation on March 13, 2020 declaring a state of emergency in the state of Idaho. Whereas I issued a proclamation on March 25, 2020, declaring a state of extreme emergency in the state of Idaho. Whereas each of these proclamations remain in effect today. Whereas Congress has passed and President Trump has signed 3 legislative packages that provide state funding in response to COVID-19. Whereas I anticipate additional congressional actions on federal relief package or for states regarding COVID-19. Now, therefore, I, Brad Little, Governor of the State of Idaho, do hereby order the creation of a COVID-19 Financial Advisory Committee, CFAC, comprising members appointed by and serving at the pleasure of the governor for the coronavirus relief funds and other funds to be administered by the office of the governor. That's his proclamation. Do we understand what he just said there? He said that all of these funds are going to come to the office of the governor. Then I am going to create this little committee that serve, literally it says, at my pleasure. At my pleasure. And then together we will decide where these funds go. Who knows normally how it's done? How funds are determined? How is it normally? The legislature decides where the state funds are going to be sent. Again, proving we are not a Republican form of government. We are under a dictatorship, and not just any dictatorship, a dictatorship that puts you and me in tried to put you and me in self-isolation, and then received billions and billions. We know at least $8.1 billion, and that's just what we've been able to find. $8.1 billion have come to the state of Idaho, and all spent at the discretion of the governor and those who serve at his pleasure, according to his own proclamation. We need to understand literally what's going on here. No. So thank you, Matt, because let me explain that a little bit. So you think, well, it's the federal government. They got all the money in the world, right? And they could give a state billions and billions of dollars, and, they're just nice. They just leave it on the governor's front porch, right? No strings, no nothing. Well, I can promise you this, and I can tell you this. The federal government never gives a dollar without an agreement, without some type of what they call MOUs, or memorandums of understandings. They never do. It always comes with strings. And so it has with Idaho. The governor, he gets to decide how it's spent, but the federal government gets to be the one to say, this is what you need to do because we give it to you, right? This is what you have to enforce in your state because we give it to you. And these come in what we know as, and we've been able to uncover, of what's called the White House profiles. And they come weekly to the governor, at least they were most of last year, and they're basically putting mandates of what the governor and his staff have to enforce upon the people of Idaho. And that is why the self-isolation order and all the things that we've gone through and suffered through this last year, that's why we've had to do, why he's implemented them. It hasn't been because of COVID. It hasn't been because of some pandemic. It's because of money and the strings that are tied to it. And so literally, our governor prostituted our freedoms for money. That's what he did. He did it for money. And we have to understand that. We have to understand what the motive was behind this. Now, that is not all, right? I'd love to read some of the White House profiles to you, but I don't know how long it would take me. Well, okay. Let's see if I can find it here. I got it here, but let me get down to this. Okay. Okay, I got it here. I got something here. So this was given to me. I'm looking for a date, but it was I believe it was in July. And I received this from the Southwest Health District, I think superintendent. And she's getting these coming from the governor and she's getting them weekly. And so these are the things that she knew and understood were happening. So let me get in here. Okay, this is policies for counties in the red zone. So they had some way of rating them, right? This is coming from the White House. And it's pretty small writing, so I might have to go sideways here. Okay. Public messaging. Wear a mask at all times outside the home and maintain physical distancing. Limit social gatherings to 10 people. Do not go into bars, nightclubs, or gyms. Use or take out. Anyway, it goes on. So now let's go to public officials. This is from the White House to the public officials. This is what they are required to follow in order to get the billions of dollars that the governor gets, public officials. Close bars and gyms and create outdoor dining opportunities with pedestrian areas. Limit social gatherings to 10 people. Institute routine weekly testing of all workers in assisted living. Ensure that all businesses, retailers, and personal services require masks. Increase messaging on the risk of serious disease for individuals in all age groups. Work with local community groups to provide targeted, tailored messaging to communities with high case rates. Recruit more contact tracers as community outreach workers to ensure all cases are contacted. And all positive households are individually tested within 24 hours. Provide isolation facilities outside the household if COVID positive individuals can't quarantine successfully. And this is just one weekly that they received. And in fact, the Southwest Health District, as you may know, and cut me off when I'm done, when I go too long, Joey, because I'm just laying this out the best I can. So just when you're done, just cut me off. So the Southwest Health District decided that they were going to listen to the people, and I think that had a lot to do with this group, that they were going to listen to the people rather than to follow the mandates from the governor. And so the governor's executive chief of staff, his chief of staff, and another individual contacted the chairman of the Southwest Health Board. And essentially, not essentially, he did. He threatened him that if he did not comply, that they would go public on the air, he used, on the air. They would go public and blame all of the COVID stuff on him. That's exactly what happened. There's video of it. And if you want to look it up, you could go to People's Rights Newsroom and find it. So he threatened him. And thankful enough, that chairman was one who didn't like to be threatened. So he went public with it. And he didn't mention the guy's name. We did a bunch of research and found out who it was because they were trying to protect, what's his name? Haig, yeah. What's his first name? Do you remember his first? Zach Haig, that's right. Zach Haig. Do you hear us, Zach? He's threatening the health board district members that if they don't comply to the White House profiles, that they're going to try to blame all the COVID stuff on them. Now, the interesting thing is when you unwind this, why is the governor's chief of staff contacting the health boards requiring him to do these things? Because the governor agreed to it in order to get federal funding. Massive, massive amounts of federal funding. So we as a people we're getting pretty tired of this. And I'm about to July right here, probably June, July, right in here. We're getting pretty tired of it. All right, we start showing up to these health board meetings. We start showing up to our school board meetings. We start showing up to football games without masks. We start doing these things because we're tired of it. These freedoms belong to us. They don't belong to them. They belong to us. They don't have a right to force a man-made filter over my mouth. I'm glad many of you don't, and the ones who do might have other reasons too. So we'll just leave it at that. But so we're getting tired of it, and we're showing up to the health district meetings, and we're showing up to the school board meetings, and we're showing up to the the city hall meetings. And what are they doing to us? They pack the house with police, with law enforcement. I don't really want to call them law enforcement, right? They weren't supposed to be law enforcers. They were supposed to be peace officers. But they packed the houses, and they start arresting us for being in there without masks. Start throwing us out. But not only, it'd be fine if they just threw us out. Well, it wouldn't be fine, but it'd be better. But not only that, they would trespass us using a private property trespass law that was meant to protect the private properties of the people of Idaho, not for the state to use against public property, which I have talked to the writers of that law, and they're upset that law is being used that way. Upset, disgusted. They can't believe that the prosecutors and the system, this supposed justice system, is using the law, the private property law that was supposed to protect the rights of the people of Idaho, that they're using it to trespass and prosecute the people of Idaho for being in a public building. So we start now where we have to go to the courts, because now we're being prosecuted. We're being charged with fines and a trespass. The first trespass is 6 months, possible 6 months of imprisonment, and thousands of dollars in fines. If it happens again, you're looking at a year. Some of us were looking at a year. And we got, I don't want to forget Sarah. I can't forget Sarah. She was with her children at a park, right? And they trespassed her for being at a public park with her children. She was the first one, actually. And she wasn't willing to just allow them to get away with it. She challenged them, so they arrested her and charging her with trespassing. So now we go into the courts, and we start to think, well, maybe we can get this worked out through the courts, right? This is the administration of justice. We do want justice, right? We long for justice. So we're going to go into this court process, and we're going to find justice. But then what they said is, nope, you can't come in. You can't do anything in here. You can't come in. You can't do anything. That's what they said. And so we're like, well, how do we get justice? And they're like, well, we can have a video. We can have a phone call. Maybe we can do it that way. And we object, and they say, well, sorry. If you don't call in at a certain time, we're going to send the officers at your house and arrest you and take you to prison. Take you to jail. That's what they say. So we have to get on the phone, and we have to act like we're getting justice, right? Oh, Your Honorable, Your Honor, thank you so much for giving me justice over the phone. You're so great. You can't see who they are. You can't see anything that's going on. You don't know what they're doing and what they're communicating. It's not justice. Thank you. It's not justice. I'll tell you a quick little story, and I know I got to end. Joey just kicked me off. So, many of you may know I went through 2 federal trials, massive federal trials. And I was found, my family did, my entire family did. And the first one, we were found not guilty on all charges by a jury of our peers. Not guilty. The second one, there was so much corruption and so much deception by the prosecutors and the government that the judge finally had to dismiss it with prejudice and sent us home. The entire time we were in prison for 2 years, federal prison for 2 years. But my point here is, in our trial, our first trial in Oregon, there was times where every little movement of the jury meant something. Every little movement. For example, there was a juror that one time, when somebody said something on the stand, and she kind of gasped a little bit. And our defense picked up on that. And so we spent days trying to understand why she would do that and why that meant something to her. And it was part of our defense. It was a huge part of our defense. In Nevada, the jury, there was one time where, actually I think this was in Oregon too, I can't remember. Anyway, I'm getting them mixed up. But the prosecutors, the government attorneys were saying, oh, look how scary everybody is dressed at the Bundy Ranch or at the refuge. I can't remember which one it was. They all wearing camel. Look how scary, the scary clothing, they kept saying. And they're trying to get the jury to believe that camouflage was scary clothing. And then the next day, jury number 7 came and sat in the jury box with camouflage. Right? And we automatically knew that she was on our side, that she understood what was happening. Now, if we weren't in a courtroom, how would we ever have known that? How could we have ever? And that's just two of many, many, many things. There is a reason why the administration of justice happens in a courtroom with the public there and a jury and outside the grasp of a judge or a prosecutor. There's a reason why that happens. It's so that we can get justice. That's why. Now we're being prosecuted and other things. But we also, I'm going to go for another 5 to 8 minutes. I got to wrap this up. So now, a whole bunch of us, Diego, myself, a whole bunch of us, Idaho Freedom Foundation, Idaho Freedom Health Idaho. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up. Health Freedom Idaho. Sorry, I love those girls, by the way. They're awesome. Health Freedom Idaho. Okay, we all get together and we start researching the law because we're like, there's no way that the governor can keep the people of Idaho under martial law indefinitely. There's no way. So we start looking at it. And I would love to reference it again, but it'd probably take me a little bit, so I'm just going to do the best I can to quote it. But the Idaho law says this. There's very limited things the governor can do under martial law. And it should be only for the protection of the people. And then he can only be in that 30 days. And it says if it's an extreme situation, he can extend it for another 30 days. So 60 days is all it allows him to be, right? Because we got to go back to our Republican form of government. And 30 days should be enough to handle the emergency so it's not an emergency anymore. Then you get the legislatures and they start handling it, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Never was he ever supposed to infringe upon the people's rights, though. He was only supposed to handle the emergency and then turn it back over to the Republican form of government as soon as possible. And if it was really extreme, he might have to make that transfer within 60 days, but that's all he has. Then it says, then Idaho law says, if the governor does not relinquish the power, and I'm paraphrasing, if he doesn't relinquish the power within 30 days, it says, on the 90th day, the legislature shall convene and end the order. Right? And it would make sense, right? So we all get together. We start doing the best we can. We're communicating with the legislatures. We do certified letter. We go directly talk to them. And several of them get it. There's about a couple dozen of them like, oh yeah. So that day was June 23rd, 2020. And the legislatures, the House, tried to call a session. Some of them, not all of them, tried to call a session, tried to get together. And you know what the governor did? The governor's lawyer said, you can't call a session without my permission. He says, you don't have my authorization. You can't call a session without my permission. And know what most of the legislatures did? What do we have, 105 legislatures between the Senate and House in Idaho? Most of them believed him. And so they were afraid to go into the Capitol building. They literally believed that the governor could keep the people of Idaho in a state of emergency indefinitely. And in order to appease the people, because the people, we were all going, what are you doing? You got to come on June 23rd. What are you doing? No, no, no. The governor's lawyers said we can't. No, no, no. And then they gave us a promise. Who remembers the promise that they gave us? That's right. Don't worry. Don't worry, we got this under control. We're going to take care of it during the 2021 legislative session. They not only lied, but they wanted us to be under martial law for another 9 months. But not that was bad enough, right? So then, a little over a month later, the governor decides there's too much pressure on him. So he decides that he's going to call a legislative session. Right? He's going to call a legislative session. But was it to end the order? So the legislature can end his order? No. It was so that he can get immunity for all his actions through this 2020 year. All his COVID actions. He wanted to be able to lock the people down in their homes, keep them from traveling, shut down their businesses, keep them from going to work, going to church, visiting their family. All these things he doesn't have authority to do. He wanted to do, and then make it so that legally he was immune to any of it. And so he calls the legislature together at the end of August, a legislative session, and they all get together and they go, oh, look, the governor gave us permission. The executive branch gave us the legislative branch permission to be able to come together. Like they have to have the executive branch's permission to convene. But they all got together, and we decide that we're going to go to the Capitol building, and we're going to tell the legislators, we are not happy. We are not happy with the governor trampling upon our rights, the rights that we got from God, not from him. We're not happy. We're not happy him thinking that he can make himself immune from the terrible decisions that he's made. So we go there, and what do? What does the Idaho State Police do? They block us from going into the House gallery. They say we can't come in. What? We can't come into our own house and watch the legislative process? We can't grieve our own government? We can't participate in that process? No. They physically blocked us. And we were so tired of it, we physically pulled the doors open and went in. But they continued and continued to push and to try to reassert their authority, to intimidate us in our own Capitol building. They started arresting us again for trespassing in our own Capitol building during open hours while there was a legislature session. Even when the Idaho Constitution says that the Capitol building must be open during legislative sessions. It must be open to the public. It must be open to the people. Even the joint rules of the House and the Senate say that the galleries must be open to the people. It doesn't matter. They put the Idaho State Police right in front of the doors to block us. And every one of those state police, what did they do? They just followed orders. And they started arresting us and dragging us to jail over and over again. So now we end up in full force in these buildings right here. Well, we try to. We're caught in the system with no real remedy. We're facing the full force of conviction upon us without a process to defend ourselves with. Right? Basically marching us to the gallows without any way to say, I didn't do it. That's exactly what they're doing. And so we fight it. I know myself, I know Aaron has too, has spent almost every waking minute the last 7 months defending ourselves in these stupid courts at home. over a phone, calling it administration of justice, neglecting our families so that we don't have to go to jail for a year or 6 months. That's what we've been doing, and I know I'm not alone. I know Sarah's been doing the same thing. She's an awesome mother. Imagine the time that's taken away from her family. There was a time that this was happening on this land, on the East Coast, in the colonies. It was happening once before. And it was so bad that they would get charged for whatever they wanted, and then they wouldn't have a trial. It was indefinite, or they'd transport them to England. And finally, we fought a bloody war that cost the lives of the best patriots probably ever in the history of this earth. They fought it and they won against the most powerful navy ever known to man. They won. And the very first thing they said was, we will make sure that every person gets due process. That the administration of justice will be given to each and every person. And that each person will be treated innocent before they're proven guilty. And what we have now is the reverse of that. We made the decision already that we would let 1,000 people that were guilty go before we would punish one innocent person. We decided that. We decided that it would be better to let as many people as we had to go that were guilty before we would punish one innocent person, because they knew how painful it was. They also put into place that the administration of justice must be done speedily, and it must be done in the open where the public can see it. Why speedily? Because so that a man or a woman doesn't have to be in jeopardy, as they called it, under this process. Doesn't have to be in jeopardy for months and months and months, so that he can go through the administration, prove his innocence, and go back to his family and back to his life. And each state put limits on that. Oregon is 60 days. California is 60 days. The federal limits on it is 70 days. Idaho is 180 days. Right? But 180 days from the time I was arrested was January 25th. Our right to a speedy trial has been violated and stomped on. We don't even have a trial date right now. We don't even know when we're going to go to trial. And still we have to fight it. We have to answer to the court. We have to respond to the court. We have to write motion after motion after motion, trying to keep the court off our back so they won't throw us in jail. And also so that we can establish that these are our rights, that they don't belong to the judge, that they don't belong to the governor, that they belong to me, that they belong to you, that my rights are not your rights and your rights are not mine. That's what they are. And that's what we're doing. Now, wrapping this up, they decided, after we pushed them, right, Aaron? We pushed them. We said, you got to give us a trial. You got to give us a trial. You have to. This is our fundamental right. And you got to. So then, March 15th, they decide, finally, give us a trial date. And we get prepared. We've been preparing for months and months, but we get really prepared. We get a little nervous. We know that we're not going to be able to face a jury that understands this, because only those with masks are allowed in the courtroom. But we think, you know what? These things are so obvious. We're certain that even a jury that the prosecutors handpicked would still not convict us. We are that confident. We come prepared. We come to this very building, this very door right here. And they have armed guards keeping us from coming into the courthouse, blocking us until our trial time is over. And then the judge inside the building, issues a warrant for Aaron and I's arrest for failure to appear. When all we wanted to do is go in there All we wanted to do is go into that room, sit down, and talk to a jury and allow the jury to judge us. Even if we were found guilty, we would have said, well, look, the jury found us guilty. Right? It would have been hard to swallow, but we would have accepted it. But we're not even allowed to get to that point. And we were prepared and ready, and we paid the price to be there. And they blocked us. A fundamental right. So they've destroyed the administration of justice in this country. They have destroyed it. We cannot receive justice. So then yesterday, and then they went and met the prosecutor and the judge together without us while we were in the jails. Or at least out here. I can't remember. I don't know which one it was. They were out here. And they met without us. Made plans without us. Which, as any of you that have any legal understanding knows, that that's an ex parte meeting. It is illegal for them to meet without us. And they did. And they decided our fate without us. And then we went to jail and spent the next 35 hours in what they called the cold box. I know Aaron's feet were blue when he got out. He was so cold. With me, I'd been in there before because of Aaron had too. Sorry, Aaron. Aaron had too, but so, I guess you got out a little earlier, huh? I went to, so I was in there before, and I knew how cold it was. So I layered up. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to beat them at their own game. I'll go into that. I took two layers of wool socks. I had 3 pairs of thermals on, and 3 top and bottom, right? I was like, I'm going to beat them at their own game. They can keep me in there as long as they want. And I was hoping that the people, all of you outside, would be making so much noise that you wouldn't forget us in there. I know you didn't. Thank you. But when I got in there, they slammed me against the wall, and they frisked me, and they said he's got multiple layers on. And they started trying to take it off. And I wouldn't let them. So what did they do? They brought 4 more guards in there, and they body slammed me on the concrete and stripped me to my underwear. And they left me in that cold box without any of my clothes, without my garments. And that's what they did. And we spent 35 hours in there. And it's so unbelievably cold that you can't stand on the concrete for very long because your feet start to hurt and ache. And you can't lay on the concrete ground because your body gets so cold and so miserable. And it's just constantly laying down, getting up, laying down, getting up, laying down, getting up. And the first time I was in there, they come to the window and they open up the window and they got this big bedroll. And it looks so good because you're freezing. This was after about 20 hours. And they said, see, Mr. Bundy, if you comply, we'll give you this. That's what they said. And then they said, see this guy over here in the cell across me? He complies. And they open the door and they give it to that guy. And that's ultimately what they want. They want us to give up our sovereignty, our rights, and say, we'll make you a little more comfortable. We'll give you that bedroll if you'll just comply. And that's ultimately what this entire COVID thing is about. It's about putting us in a position where we can't be comfortable, we can't be free unless we comply. Now, wrapping up, and I've talked way too long, but now, yesterday, it was yesterday. All the days seem to be blending together. We had a hearing. Aaron and I had a hearing. And it came after, as many of you know, we put together a motion and we proposed it and we made it public. We never actually filed it, but we made it public because we knew the courts would see it. We knew the prosecutors would see it. We knew all the Idaho State Police, and we knew all those involved would see it, all those at the Capitol building, all the director of administration and director of treasurer and all of these things. We knew that they would see it. We made it public. And they did see it. They did see it. And so we knowing that they saw it, and we had laid out this entire thing, all the details. It was 20, I think, how long was it? 21 pages long, and had 99 exhibits. And it was this full entire thing that we had laid out, and we knew the judge would see it. We knew that he'd have to be interested in it, and he would have to read it. And so we yesterday morning, get up, we go through part of our day, and the hearing is at 2 o'clock. Of course, we don't come, some people come here just to support, but we get on our phones, we call in, right? And the hearing was a couple minutes long. And it was the judge. He gets on, he goes, the reason I called this the status conference was because I'm ordering this case into mediation. Into mediation. Right? I'm ordering into mediation. Basically, he's saying, I'm trying to distance myself from this case. That's what he's saying. But he's also saying that after looking at all the evidence, and we've been screaming this to him, after looking at all this, I want now you and the prosecutors to got to go work something out and make this go away. That's what he's doing. I don't want it on record that we just infringed upon your rights for 8 months, that we caused suffering and put you in jeopardy for months and months on end, that we arrested you multiple times and threw you in prison, that we stripped you of your clothes and body slammed you, that we almost froze you, that we took you out of the Capitol building time after time during a legislative session because we thought maybe that you would have influence on the legislatures. We don't want any of that on record. We want you to go in a back room now, you and the prosecutors. We want you to mediate this, and we want you to agree on something, that it will go away, that it will go away. The only thing that I could say, and I'm not speaking for Aaron, but I think he stands beside me, is that there is no way that I'm giving even a centimeter. No way. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we're arrested another 10 or 20 or 30 times. Yeah, it's painful. Yes, it's hard on our families. But my friends, it is worth it. It is worth every minute of it. Every minute of it. And I thank you for supporting my family, for supporting Aaron. Thank you for being here. Because these are serious, serious things we're talking about here. They're extremely, extremely serious. And so we have to answer the question clearly that these rights belong to us, that we are the sovereign, and we receive these rights from our eternal Father in heaven. And I'm grateful for him, and I say these things in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.